It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. Welcome to McBain Moments. So, recently I ran into an issue where it's an obstacle to progression in something that I have a goal in. And so I was trying to figure out, how do I overcome this obstacle? Because it's a pretty big obstacle to my progress on this front. And I'm being deliberately vague on what this is, but I had thought about it for a week and I hadn't figured out, how do I overcome this obstacle? It's a big obstacle, and this one's going to take a lot of time to overcome, and I'm fine with that. And so I talked to some friends that who understand some of the underlying factors, or at least have an understanding of what I'm dealing with. And I was thinking about, okay, now that I've gone through that bit, and there was just a great outpouring of support, which was amazing and actually kind of blew me away. But what I realized is that nothing worth doing is easy, and nothing easy is worth doing. And so, well, that's not entirely true, because there are some easy things that are worth doing, like eating breakfast is easy and it's absolutely worth doing because that's how you get your energy for the day. But from a challenge perspective, if it's an easy challenge, it's not going to help you grow very much. And so, instead of allowing this obstacle to cause me to stop and just give up on things, because if you give up on stuff, you tend to start to resent the source of the obstacle, or even worse, you start to resent yourself, and that's not a good place to go. I was thinking about it, and I'm like, well, when you overcome an epic challenge, you usually level up. And yes, I am very deliberately using video game references here. Or not even necessarily video game references. It's been around since Dungeons and Dragons, and that's been around since the 1970s. But if you think about it, it's true. You become so much stronger when you overcome a challenge. And the bigger the challenge that you overcome, the stronger you become. And so I know I tend to play the grindier, low level. I wouldn't call them low level, because challenge is a function of difficulty over time. Challenge is a function of difficulty over time. So the greater the difficulty and the shorter the time, or the lower the difficulty and the greater of time, you're still going to come out with the same product, but the methodology of what you have to deal with is different. And so when you have, something it's short-lived, but it's a great challenge and it doesn't take very much time, that things like marathons, they're essentially a short challenge. They only take a day or two. You have to do a lot of training to get there, but the marathon itself is a one-day thing. You run the 5 kilometers and then you're done. The Spartan challenge would be kind of a more epic level version of that, because the challenge is here, even though the time is essentially the same. Then you have the more medium level ones that are, or to reverse that, getting a promotion at work. The level of challenge will be, relatively speaking, lower, but the time commitment to get there is greater, because you have to prove to yourself to be capable of handling that next step of responsibility. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're leveling up. The amount of challenge you have to take on compared to your normal life is going to be that much greater, which it might be depending on the job that you do. But generally speaking, it's to get a promotion at work, you only have to work 10% harder at most. Oftentimes it's 5. And in a lot of cases, you just have to show that you are the most capable of your peer group. And I have noticed that over time, generally speaking, the higher you get, the less likely you are to be the less difficult it is to be the more ambitious of your peer group in a lot of cases, until you reach a certain level, and then it turns itself upside down, because obviously once you get to middle management, only the most ambitious people manage to level up. But as you overcome each challenge, you become better at what you do. And the more competent you become, as long as you don't let that competence turn into arrogance, the better you're going to be overall. And so what I would challenge you to do much as I'm challenging myself, because this is still something that I'm contending with, and I'm not necessarily in that acceptance phase yet, but I understand what I have to do, and now it's just steeling myself for the challenge ahead, because it's going to be this level of challenge and this level of time scale. So this is probably one of the largest challenges I've had to face in a very long time, if not, no, not ever. Not ever. I've got 2 challenges that were much bigger than this, but it's definitely a longer time scale, an expected longer time scale. My challenge for you would be, when you run into adversity, break it down. Say, okay, this is what my goal is. This is where I need to be. And I know that this obstacle is in the way. How do I break this obstacle down? Do I need help with it? Is there a skill I'm missing? Is it simply a function of time? Is it something that I have to overcome by proving that I am or am not something that is needed? Or that I have something that's needed or don't have something that's undesirable? That's probably a more accurate way to put that. Who or what do I need? Who do I need to talk to or learn from? Or what do I need to do to overcome this obstacle? Because there isn't an obstacle out there that's absolutely insurmountable for the most part. I mean, there's a couple of them. You can't overcome taxes because that's taxes. And you can't overcome death because that's nature. And these are the only 2 things that are absolutely inevitable. Everything else is something you can negotiate with. And that's pretty much a fact. Now, how you negotiate is up to you, and there are numerous ways to negotiate, and some are more beneficial than others. But overall, that's really the key to overcoming anything, is you figure out how to negotiate the obstacle, whether it's through verbal negotiation or through training or by just proving that you are who you say you are, or you're not who they think you are. And so that is, I guess that's the next step. If you've run into things like this before in your life, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your stories. This has been another McBain moment.